Why these 1970s cabins are the perfect holidays home. Hello guys, welcome to my video. In pockets of the British countrysides, it's possible to stumble across clusters of beautifully designed Scandi style cabins. These are not a products of the latest trend for off-grid retreats, but were created half a century ago by a pair of Welsh architects, Hurd and Brooks. How did they become gripped by the crafting the perfect holidays home? And why were they so inspired by Denmark? By the 1970s, John Hurd and Graham Brooks had already won a slew of major awards for their sleek, modernist post-war villas across the Vale and Glamorgan in Wales. But the high point of their careers was the prefabricated timber cabins they designed in the 1970s and 1980s for holidays parks in Wales and forestry commissions, sites in the Scotland and the English counties and Cornwall and Yorkshire. For Brooks, the cabins were an opportunity to distill his design ethos into its clearest, purest, most compact form, says Peter Halliday, co-author with Bethan Dalton of Cabin Crew, Hurd and Brooks, and the pursuit of the perfect holidays house. He could do away with the tiresome necessities of domesticity that have to be accommodated in a conventional house and focus on what really matters. Professor Richard Weston, an architect and former chair of architecture at Cardiff University, and chose this. Brooks always said the holiday cabins were the highlight of his career. He writes in the books, they are a distillation of everything Graham stood for: the love of wood, the appreciation of proper architecture, the orientation of the sun, and the feel for detailing and space, all stripped down for agile living. Hurd Brooks were part of a worldwide boom in simple holiday homes. Mandy and Swedes already spend their leisure time in cabins or summer house along the coast or in forests. In 1960, Denmark had around 50,000 summer houses. By 1975, the number had tripled according to Cabin Crew. It was all about simple, intelligent design, woodland settings, and a close affinity with nature. Peter Halliday. Meanwhile, the summer cottage, a close relation of the dacha, was becoming a staple of Soviet society in the Baltic states and much of Central Europe. Everyone, it seems, was at it. Even the big name architects, Le Corbusier, the grand master of modernism, created his Cabanon de Vacances in Roquebrune, Cap Martin in the south of France in the early 1950s, and in the US, architect Paul Rudolph was behind a series of simple modern structures on the Florida Keys. The mushrooming of cabins in the UK was in part a result of increased car ownership from the 1930s as well as the Holidays with Pay Act of 1938 explained cabin crew. The latter led to the construction of mass-scale seaside holidays camps equipped with perfect accommodation. Getting back to nature, Hurd and Brooks cabins, some to be thought about, others to be rented, drew on the nobody study trips to Denmark because Brooks was Denmark made. His heroes were Danish architects. His reference points were the Danish Architectural Press, and his new wife helped him to enable a Danish design aesthetic into their everyday lives. The book explains. It was all about simple, intelligent design, woodland settings, and a close affinity with nature. Halliday tells the BBC the entire Hurd and Brooks them team become fascinated and were eager to apply the same principles Hurd in the UK. The firm completed their first holiday homes for Bearwood near Tenby in Pembrokeshire. In the early 1970s, timber framed with exposed roof beams, these lodges were clad in pin matchboarding and had corrugated tiled roofs and sun terraces. Inside features included built-in beds and a gallery kitchen. The color palette a blue-gray stain on the exterior timber facings and orange-red window frames and doors was inspired by those Danish study trips. The clearest Scandinavian influence in the use of wood, from the big exposed structural beams to the cadder cladding to the built-in furniture to the little details like the wooden door handles and fitted coat hooks, says Halliday. He also sets the space-saving wet rooms, which were a complete novelty in the UK, and the wood-burning stoves, which were commonplace in the Scandinavia but not available. So the architects designed their own and had them manufactured locally, and for all the while cabins Brooks looked at the orientation of the sun before positioning each cabin on its plot so as to ensure that user could enjoy as much sunshine as possible, even if sunshine was not always abundant in walls. Later, the Forestry Commissions, a national organization owning hug swaths of British countryside, brought in the herd and brooks to design holiday cabins for its sites at Deeprek in Cornwall, Castle in the North Yorkshire, and Tynelt in Scotland for the Forestry Commission's cabins. It was all about imparting a sense of adventure, says Hallidays. That was the intended function, and everything about the design reflects it. Some were of frame designs, some were flat roofed, and of others had standard pitch roofs. There was also some playfulness inside the second bedroom, a staggered stack of three bunks, high level sleeping and play platforms offered view into the forest and large slated terraces with integrated benches blurred the distinctions between indoors and outdoors, all of which added to sense of adventure the Forestry Commission was so keen to impart. Right, Kevin Crew authors soft furnishing strings stayed with the distinctive red and orange colorways that the firm had introduced in the earlier cabins. By the end of the 1970s, there were at least 35 UK companies manufacturing or promoting kit-built chalets and more than 350 holiday parks offering them. Meanwhile, on the continent, the Dutch modernist architect Jacob Bernard Bekema produced designs for the holiday villages chain center passes, especially among those of us who grew up in the 1970s and 1980s. Mid-century architecture evokes a nostalgic charm. Bethan Dalton. At this time, the British cabin movement was in part a reaction against the white head of technology, a term used by Prime Minister Harold Wilson in the 1960s to promote science. Bruce Peter, professor of design history at Glasgow School of Art, expands on this in Time Book's introduction. A growing environmental consci- consciousness emerged at least among the more politically progressive and culturally engaged. This manifesto itself in growing interest in the whole foods, alternative medicines, and natural living. The simple life. This is interesting. And for Peter, with the benefits of half a century hindsight, Hurd and Brooks' holiday cabins appear very successfully to have withstood the test of time. Back in the 1970s, environmentalism was mostly considered to be fringe concern, but in recent decades it has moved into the mainstream. The cabin's construction using mostly natural materials in an era weapon synthetics were all the rage now appears to have been highly present and with reasonable manage- maintenance. Their timber external finishes have the type of outdoor centered holiday making for which the cabins were intended has also proven enduring popular at the least among particular demographics. A few factors coming together means that there is now a renewed interest in the cabins. Dalton tells the BBC first. She cites the popularity of mid-century architecture and interior design, especially among those who of us who grew up in the 1970s and 1980s. It evokes a nostalgic charm, reminding us of the space and stylish we fondly remember from childhood. Then there the tiny house movement with cabin life appealing to people seeing a simpler, more minimum way of life of grid and imperished in the nature. A cabin holiday offers a taste of that lifestyle without the full-time commitment, says Dalton. And the of course, in the digital age, people are always looking for an Instagrammable, Instagrammable holiday image, and these cabins certainly have that covered with their streaking red paint windows and doors. So perhaps it's no surprise that some of Brooks and cabins have endured, and several of them are still in the hands of the original families. For the most part, the cabins look to be in near pristine conditions. The authors write clearly the owners like things the way they are. प्रोफेसर की डायरी, सोफी का संसार, पंचतंत्र की 101 कहानियाँ. Okay guys, so thank you for watching my video. Why life of a simple life attract rich men? Think about it, because you always connect to nature. Nature is you. Nature is everything. Feel like love. Okay, so thank you.